Good morning. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. All things are possible. Do you believe that? Napoleon Hill said, "Remember, it takes no more effort to aim high in life, to demand abundance and prosperity than is required to accept misery and poverty." If you've been living in misery and poverty, it's going to be impossible for you to think that you can just decide that you want to be rich and successful, to decide that you want to be happy and healthy, to decide that you're going to create something special in your life. But when you understand that the laws of the universe are precise, the laws of the universe return to you everything that you think, feel, and do. You are co-creating your life with infinite intelligence, with a higher, a higher power. You might call it God or a higher version of yourself. Whatever it is, this power is available, and it's available and flowing to and through you all the time. In lesson 12 of Thinking into Results, Magnifying the Mind, the secret to increasing the power of your mind, Bob Proctor and Sandy Gallagher take a couple of paragraphs of Price Pritchett's material and explain how they've used it, and at the same time share suggestions on how you and I might use it. In Price Pritchett's little book, U Squared, he suggests that you can have an explosive jump in your personal performance that puts you far beyond the next logical step. Every great performer at some time or some given point has made a decision that they're not going to settle for another logical step. They want an explosive jump. They have, for whatever reason, become aware that they truly do have potential. They can do great things, and they are going to, regardless of what anyone else thinks, or even how many failures they've had in the past. Price Pritchett also referred to U squared in another way. He said it's a formula for stunning advances in achievement and the realization of your dreams. Formulas are helpful things. They have a tendency to reduce complicated, misunderstood concepts into simple terms. Here we are talking about stunning advancement in achievement. Imagine what that would mean to you. Price Pritchett goes on to point out that U squared also is a formula for the realization of your dreams. In other words, it gives your dream a strategy that will turn your dream into a physical realization. What do you dream about? What do you wish and hope for? What would you prefer? What would you love to have in your life? There are principles and guidelines that when you use them, they can become you can become successful in any way you choose. But you must have an unwavering assumption of your wish already being fulfilled in the success. What would it feel like? What would it look like? That's the key, is getting into the vibrational energy in harmony with the feeling that you already are successful. You've taken on that identity. not wishing or hoping or seeing that it's not here, but being the version of yourself that already has what you want now. Let's take a deep breath in and get settled in. Relax. Calm your central nervous system. Find a place that you can just be comfortable and experience a transformational change. Bob Proctor would say all it takes is a decision. Decide. Decide to take on the identity of that which you desire. The first thing is knowing where you are is the starting point. Knowing what you really want and the belief that in having what you desire, you will be happier, you'll be healthier, you'll be more successful, you'll be the version of yourself that you want. In Napoleon Hill's book, The Power of Awareness, chapter 17 says, all things are possible. And it is of great significance that the truth of the principles that he practiced, that he wrote in the book, have been proven time and time again by his own personal experience. Throughout 25 years, Napoleon Hill applied these principles and proved them successful in innumerable instances. He attributes it to an unwavering assumption of his wish already being fulfilled, every success that he achieved. He was confident that by these fixed assumptions, his desires were predestined to be fulfilled. Time and again, Napoleon Hill assumed the feeling of his wish fulfilled and continued in his assumption until that which he desired was completely realized. So you can have whatever you want, but you have to identify with it. You have to decide on what it is you really want. You have to identify with it rather than look outside for it or be resentful that someone else has what you want. You must live your life in a sublime spirit of confidence and determination. Disregard outside appearances, conditions, in fact, all evidence of your senses that deny the fulfillment of your dream. Rest in the assumption that you are already what you want to be, for in that determined assumption, you and your infinite being are merged in creative unity. And with your infinite being, I say, God, all things are possible. God never fails. For who can stay his hand or say unto him, what doest thou? Through the mastery of your assumptions, you are in very truth enabled to master life. It is thus that the ladder of life is ascended, thus the ideal is realized. The clue to the real purpose of life is to surrender yourself to the ideal with such awareness of its reality that you begin to live the life of the ideal and no longer your own life as it was prior to this surrender. He calleth things that are not seen as though they were, and the unseen becomes seen. Each assumption has its corresponding world. If you are truly observant, you will notice the power of your assumptions to change circumstances which appear wholly immutable. You, by your conscious assumptions, determine the nature of the world in which you live. Neville Goddard says, ignore the present state and assume the wish fulfilled. Claim it. It will respond. The law of assumption is the means by which the fulfillment of your desires may be realized. Every moment of your life, consciously or unconsciously, you are assuming a feeling. He says you can no more avoid assuming a feeling than you can avoid eating and drinking. All you can do is control the nature of your assumptions. Thus, it is clearly seen that the control of your assumption is the key you now hold to an ever-expanding, happier, more noble life. In the Bible, James 1:22-25 says, be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. For if any be a hearer of the word, and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass, and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continue therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed. The word in this quotation means idea, concept, or desire. You deceive yourself by hearing only when you expect your desire to be fulfilled through mere wishful thinking. Your desire is what you want to be, and looking at yourself in a glass is seeing yourself in imagination as that person. Forgetting what manner of man you are is failing to persist in your assumption. The perfect law of liberty is the law which makes possible liberation from limitation. That is the law of assumption. To continue in the perfect law of liberty is to persist in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled. You are not a forgetful hearer when you keep the feeling of your wish fulfilled constantly alive in your consciousness. This makes you a doer of the work, and you are blessed in your deed by the inevitable realization of your desire. Neville Goddard goes on to say you must be doers of the law of assumption. For without application, the most profound understanding will not produce any desired result. So you can study every day, you can practice, you can rehearse, you can wish, you can hope and dream. You can write out your goal as if it's already done. You can create vision boards. But unless you assume the identity of what you really want, unless you do something about it, unless you act, there will be no reaction in the universe. You'll continue to be what you've already always been. Frequent reiteration and repetition of important basic truths run through the pages of the book, The Power of Awareness. Where the law of assumption is concerned, the law that sets man free, this is a good thing. Neville says it should be made clear again and again, even at the risk of repetition. The real truth seeker will welcome this aid in concentrating his attention upon the law which sets him free. The parable of the master's condemnation of the servant who neglected to use the talent given him is clear and unmistakable. Having discovered within yourself the key to the treasure house, you should be like the good servant who, by wise use, multiplied by many times the talents entrusted to him. The talent entrusted to you is the power to consciously determine your assumption. The talent not used, like the limb not exercised, withers and finally atrophies. You can buy a set of weights and go to the gym, but if you don't exercise with those weights, your muscles will atrophy. If you don't use your talents, they just waste away. Neville says, what you strive after is being. In order to do, it is necessary to be. The end of yearning is to be. Your concept of yourself can only be driven out of consciousness by another concept of yourself. By creating an ideal in your mind, you can identify yourself with it until you become one and the same with the ideal, thereby transforming yourself into it. The dynamic prevails over the static. The active prevails over the passive. One who is a doer is magnetic and therefore infinitely more creative than one who merely hears. Be among the doers. If you know what you really want, you must do that. You must be that. Not think about it, wish and hope, but do what you know needs to be done in order to obtain a new result, to see the difference, to have what you really want. What is it that you really want? When you have a deep desire and you write about it, you think about it, you dream about it, and then you do something about it, your whole universe changes. Act and the universe reacts. Put out the good energy and see how your rewards become greater and greater. Use your talent and multiply your results. Sandy Gallagher said, visioneering is where you truly begin to create your world through the effective use of your imagination. You create and hold the image of what you want. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, when you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen. Decide that you are going after what you desire. That means you have to leave your comfort zone. You have to do things differently. You have to believe that it's possible. Never think about the future as a linear straight line. If I do this, then that will happen. You can think in leaps. Think leaps and bounds and expect the unexpected. Let's take a moment to write down what it is that's a desire. If you've got a desire that's deeply planted in your heart, you might think don't have to write about it, but there is a neural connection between your brain and your handwriting. When you write, you start to think of new ideas. As you write about your goal in the present tense, something that you really want, something that you want to do or be or have, as you write it out as if You are grateful for it happening now. It's here. What does it look like for you to have that which you wish for, you hope for? It might be a goal that you think someday I'm going to do that. What if it was today? How exciting would that be? How grateful would you be to have that goal happen today? The love of your life, the healthy, strong body, the purposeful work, the wealth that would allow you to do whatever you want to do for yourself, your family, for a cause that is dear to your heart. You're doing it today. What does that feel like? Take a pen and paper and write, I'm so happy and grateful now that. What is that desire that you have in your heart? What if the universe conspired to make it happen and you believed Napoleon Hill when he says, remember, it takes no more effort to aim high in life, to demand abundance and prosperity than is required to accept misery and poverty. Accept that your goal is here now. What are you going to do about it? Take some time to visualize. The universe is always for expansion and fuller expression. You make the decision that today you're doing something different. You're getting into the habit of doing what it is that you would be doing now that your goal is accomplished. Send out beautiful energy, the energy that is available to you, the energy that creates worlds. Get into the habit of feeling good about yourself, your goal, making others feel good about themselves. Every day your life is getting better and better. How wonderful. Take a deep breath in. Enjoy that version of you that already has your goal accomplished. Take on that identity. Feel it in every cell of your being. When you tap into that energetic vibration of what that feels like to be the person who has the goal that you desire, Price Pritchett says quantum leaps can come without apparent effort. These are high velocity moves that carry you to dramatically higher performance levels without a time consuming struggle. When you tap into infinite power, the possibilities, the promise that what you desire is yours, this goes beyond common sense. Getting into that energetic vibration of the version of you, identifying with the success, enjoying it on the spiritual level, enjoying it in your imagination, and then going out and acting as if you're already that person. You will create a quantum leap. You will bring your vision into reality. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. Create a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7. Thank you.